Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam, I'm an artist, illustrator, an aspiring knitting designer coming to you from Dublin in the Republic of Ireland, and you can find me around the internet looking for Irish farm art, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have a website, an Etsy shop, a Ravelry store, everything basically. And if you're new to this channel, this is my trial into making a knitting podcast of some sort, in which I kind of follow the classic knitting podcast schedule, talking about my finished works, works in progress, acquisitions, and sometimes other crafts, art endeavors and stuff like that, basically. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. At the end of this video we will announce the winner of the Christmas knit-along, so stay tuned or skip ahead if you don't want to hear my horrible voice for that long. Anyway, grab your coffee, tea, hot chocolate, what you're drinking, and let's get started. I have here an Italian hot chocolate, which is probably the best kept secret of my country. I'm Italian, by the way, as you can tell from my accent. I'm living in Ireland for the last 10 years, so I consider myself a mix between an adopted Irish and an original Italian. Anyway, hot chocolate wise, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about this because it is the best thing that my country produced after probably, I don't know, Botticelli and Michelangelo. But I go for you here. This is the hot chocolate. It comes in these little sachets here. You put this in milk, you boil it, and it becomes the most amazing, thick, custardy type of hot chocolate. I'm sure you never had something that good. So these are some sachets that I found commercially, of course, when I was back in Italy. I grew up drinking these things. It's quite common over there, but it's impossible to find abroad. So if you want to try a proper Italian hot chocolate and you can't find the commercial one, just take a cup of milk. I'm talking about not the American cup measurement, but your mug, basically. Cold milk, put it in a pot, add a tablespoon of cocoa powder, once again, a regular kitchen tablespoon, then you will modify the measurement as you wishes. If you want more strong, put more cocoa powder. If you want it a little weaker, less cocoa powder. You got a gist of the situation. 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of cornstarch or potato starch, and some sugar to taste. All cold, bring it to the stove, keep mixing all the way until it boils. When it boils, keep mixing for 3 or 4 minutes until it gets kind of thick, and that is it. It's mandatory to have hot chocolate with whipped cream on the top and some sprinkles, or hundreds and thousands are they called? You know what I mean. But try it because it's absolutely amazing. Anyway, in my last episode I was saying that I wasn't going to stress about knitting at all, and I wasn't going to cast on everything and anything that I could find. But what did I do? I did it. I started to cast on stuff like there wasn't a tomorrow, like this was the only week I had for knitting, and so we have a lot to go through. So the first thing that I wish to show you is one of my finished works for this week's. You have seen this in my previous episode as a whip, a work in progress, and it's what I'm wearing. I'm gonna show it to you a little bit. This is the Arne and Carlos Save the Children sweater. It's a beautiful raglan sweater with a kind of a 10 centimeters, 4 inches of collar work in the middle of your chest and shoulders, and it's absolutely stunning. I made one of these before using drops alpaca, which was actually my very first garment, knitted garment that I made. And I had used, and I am using that first Save the Children sweater so much that I wanted to make another one. And I always wanted another one, but for some reason I always found the excuse of casting on something different rather than this one. I was going back home to Italy for Christmas, and I didn't have many projects to bring there. Well, I decided to cast this on. This is knitted using Host Garn Super Soft Wool, which is, you're probably more familiar than me about Host Garn, but it's a super soft wool that comes in big 500 grams cones. You can buy smaller quantity as well, but in my opinion they are not convenient. These cones of fingering weight yarn, they are drenched in spinning oil to aid probably the machine working or the other machinery that are used for spinning. So while you knit this thing up, it looks like a web type of thing. It's very hairy, very holly, but once you wash it and all the spinning oil dissolves, it becomes this beautiful, plumpy, blooming fabric, and is actually very soft. Super soft, not to be confused with superwash. This is woolly wool, like a rough wool, proper wool. And I found in my experience that it's very durable, doesn't peel at all, and the more you use it and the more you wash it, the more it blooms and it becomes more of a thick fabric. It's absolutely gorgeous indeed. This jumper, this pattern from Arne and Carlos, is by the way a for sale pattern, and the profit, the money for the pattern will go to Save the Children in Norway or Sweden, one of the two, but yeah, you know, it's a global organization, so it's, as well as a beautiful pattern, a good cause. More than that, this pattern gave me the 240 rules. What am I talking about? So the pattern gives different measurements and so on and so forth. One of the measurements is actually my perfect size if I knit with finger away and 2.5 and 3 millimeter needles. So 240, I can't tell if it's in the pattern because it's for sale, but it's the closest measurement that I could find for my fitting size. So now when I knit something, I know that if I use fingering away yarn, if I use 2.5 and 3 or 3.5 millimeter change, nothing really. If I get to cast on 240 centimeters for the bottom of the ribbing, or if I go top down, if I see that at the end I will have 240, I know for some sort of reasons that that is my perfect size, and it fits very well. So I am kind of using these 240 rules for everything that I'm knitting, and if I go up in yarn weight, like if I'm using a DK or a worsted, I always keep in mind these 240 rules, and I modify that in respect to the yarn weight and in respect to the needles as well. It's brilliant, and it saved me a lot of swatching. If I find that I'm using a different type of yarn, like a more plumpy yarn than this super soft, or I don't know, an alpaca yarn that has different properties, or a cotton yarn, I always keep in mind the 240 and I go a little down in stitch count or needle size, or a little up. And that worked like a dream for me, Once again, saved me a lot of swatching. I absolutely despise gauge swatching. It's not for me, at least when I'm knitting a garment. When I'm designing stuff, that's a different story. It's almost necessary to swatch. But here it is. On the pattern, again, it's a raglan design, so you basically start from the bottom, you go up, you knit your first piece of color work, you set on the side, start at the sleeve, knit until the same, a row in the color work, and then join everything together and start decreasing for the neck. Then for the neck, usually you cast off a number of stitches in the middle and then you pick them up for the weaving afterwards. The pattern tells you not to do that, but to do something a little different, which is the first time that I absolutely 100% follow that pattern. In my previous jumper, I just cast off as commonly used, just because I couldn't figure out the way that the pattern was addressing you, was telling you how to do the color. Now, with some experience, I decided to follow the pattern. The thing is that, I don't know if you can see here, I'm gonna show you a little bit. The light is not clement today, but you can see there are a couple of holes that I needed to take care of. That's due to the way the pattern tells you to create the color, which is absolutely not my favorite method. So what I'm gonna do is to unravel the color piece and try to avoid this type of situation. And this is all due to the short row technique that the pattern uses. If I skip that, I add my German beloved short rows and then I pick up stitches for the neck, these issues of the holes will be solved. Having said that, it's a great pattern, great constructions, and I do love the colors as well. I was worried that the combination of the two greens would give us a little bit of a pajama effect, if you know what I mean. But it actually looks very good, and it's perfect for the upcoming St. Patrick's Festival next month. So yeah, I'm very happy with this work. I need to check my Ravelry project for the next finished work, because I don't remember the name or the designer. So here we go. I only have one to show you because I'm usually bringing everything onto my table here and it's absolutely full of stuff. So let's see this. This is my next finished work. It's a pair of gloves. These are the gem gloves from Soho. My very first pair of fingerful gloves. If there are fingerless gloves, must be fingerful. I have no idea, but you know what I mean. Full proper gloves. This is a free pattern that you can find on the Rugby or on the Soho website. I'm gonna link everything down here. I knitted this using Adriafiel Calza Socks, which is an Italian sock yarn 2575 in the color navy and rust orange. Why did I do the rust orange situation here? Well, I had a full skein of yarn. They come in 50-gram balls as usual sock yarn, but I ended up missing two of the fingers of the second glove. I played the yarn chicken until the very end, and it's not my fault. It's not the yarn's fault. It's just that probably the pattern uses more yarn. As simple as that. But I was really hoping it was one skein dream type of situation and I could go ahead and have two gloves. So the thing that I've done is to put two of the fingers, like the thumb and the index finger, in a different color. Bothers me a little bit, but it's a kind of a feature. And more than that, I really wanted to try and knit a pair of gloves. Never done it before, completely new to me, so rather than unraveling everything, I just plowed on and decided to change color. I had in my, I don't know why I'm doing this, I had in my Instagram account very good feedback about the two different colors of the thumb and the index finger. People say they are nice and it's kind of a feature. I'm happy with that. The pattern is brilliant. I find that it fits very well and it doesn't show any holes. You know, the problem usually is that you get holes when you pick up stitch in the middle of the fingers. In this case, I couldn't see anything. I have modified the pattern a little bit, of course, as you do. The pattern tells you to reduce the amount of stitches after you knit the ribbing here, and then increase to the same amount and more for the thumb gusset. I didn't do that because the cuff is still, it's already a little bit tight, and I kept the same amount of stitches after the cuff, and then I just knitted a few plain rows to compensate the rows that I will be missing if I did increase as the pattern said. Does it make any sense? Then I left on the holder the exact amount of stitches that the pattern tells you to do and knit it up. Works fine, didn't give me any troubles in terms of construction, and I think is so much of a better fit. So per Soho, be mindful if you want to make some modification to your pattern, this is the way to go. I doubt that per Soho need my recommendations, my suggestions, and I doubt that per Soho or anybody from them will watch this podcast, but here you go. Two lovely pair of gloves that I am going to use a lot. You know how people are sock knitters when they have a project on the go, it's socks. I think this will be my to-go project just because I'm enjoying wearing gloves very, very much. In a previous life, I was a pianist, a professional pianist. I study piano and composition in Venice, and I play with an orchestra, all of that type of thing. And I remember before a concert, a rehearsal, or before an exam when I was in music school, always gloves, even in the middle of the spring. Not summer, because summer is very warm, but my hands tend to be really, really, really cold. And I used to wear gloves all the time. And if you ever been to Venice, you know how humid and cold it is in the winter, in the spring, in the autumn. Basically, we have a couple of months of heat, and that's it. That month of heat is extraordinarily hot, like Sahara weather, but the winter, the autumn is extremely cold. So gloves were a must for me, and I still enjoy that very much. This is my second finish work. Let's go on with the third finish work. And once again, you remember how I mentioned in my previous episode that I wasn't going mad with designing stuff and so on and so forth, but I did go mad with designing stuff. So the first thing that I want to announce to you beautiful people is that my Marmolada jumper, which is here, I don't have unfortunately the original piece because I brought it back home over Christmas and is now living in my closet in Italy. But this is a pattern that I designed, it's almost a year ago. And I went through tech editing, which was a lovely experience, an extortion, but a lovely experience. And I ended up working with a brilliant tech editor that graded this jumper in a massive array of sizes, from double extra small to triple extra large, something like that. And it's a raglan design with a color work in the middle, very, very simple color work. The feature that I wanted to give to this jumper is the scattered short rolls. So, playing around with construction, short rolls, blah blah blah, I found that if you scatter your short rolls in different points towards your yoke and sleeves and body, the fit for at least a male body is so much better. So I applied that kind of experience, that thought to the jumper. So all the way through you have short rows, like massive amount of short rows, and it works like magic. So beautiful, it dresses so well, fits extremely well, and I'm very happy with that. I decided to call it Marmolada as when I was finishing the designing of that sweater, and when I was giving that sweater to my test knitters. By the way, thank you so much. You being a gem. It's been a big piece of work for everybody. The pattern is not super easy, but yeah, it's interesting. When I was doing that, the Marmolada glacier collapsed in Italy. Marmolada is the tallest of the Dolomites. I'm from there, and we have a massive glacier, or it used to be massive, now it's smaller, unfortunately. And due to the heat of last summer, the glacier collapsed, and unfortunately a few people lost their lives, and big tragedy for my region, for my town. But apart from that, Marmolada is always been so known, the queen of the Dolomite Alps, like the most beautiful, the most, I don't know, the tallest, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to dedicate this color work, this jumper, to the Marmolada itself, to this mountain and to the glacier, and somehow to remember the people that were unfortunately injured by the collapsing of the glacier. And as it happens, over the glacier back in the First and Second World War, our troops built what was called the Ice City. So a system of trenches to fight, to protect the border, or what back then was the border of Italy against the enemy. And this massive system of trenches was, you could visit it, you could go up there and walk around this ice city, so underneath the glacier, all the tunnels, the system of defense, and so on and so forth. With the ice melting and the glacier collapsing, all of this has been lost. So I kind of wanted to keep up the memory with a jumper design, as you do. You can find it now in my Ravelry page or on Lovecraft as well. That is the first pattern that I launched this week, and the second one is this one. It's a simple sock. I call this the Rugby sock. Rugby because it's just a very simple sock with 3 colorwork stripe, contrasting points here, toe, and for this year I wanted to dedicate my patterns to Ireland. Last year I did dedicate my patterns to Venice and to Italy, to the Dolomites, what is my origins, and this year, as kind of second year into knitting designing, I want to dedicate all my designs to the country that adopted me. So Rugby here is a big thing. We are probably the first country skill-wise for rugby. We won the championship last year, and Six Nations is starting this year very soon, so hopefully will go well for Ireland. I know these are not Irish colours, but you know what I mean. The sock is very simple. It's a ribbed sock, ribbed all the way on the leg, and on the instep of the sock here I'm showing behind, and you can't tell, but and then we have a stockinette for the base of the foot, the plantar. The thing that I wanted to share is the Venetian heel construction. You're probably familiar with this a lot because I spoke about this Venetian heel construction in my previous podcast. But I kept receiving a lot of questions. What is the Venetian heel? Never heard of that. Well, it does not exist. There's no such a thing as a Venetian heel construction for a pair of socks. But my family, my great-grandmother was a prolific knitter. My granny is a prolific knitter, both of my grannies actually. And what I found is that both in my legacy of socks, the socks that my great-grandmother knitted for me that I still have, the socks that my grannies knitted for me or are knitting for me, they all use this heel construction. I got a pair of socks from them. I look into the heel construction. It looks like a heel flap and gusset, but doesn't at the same time. I could not find anything in any other pattern around the world that was looking like this. So what I've done is to analyze the sock chemically, looking into every single stitch and write down what's being done there. The point is that I call it Venetian because all my grannies, great-grandmother, my mom as well, use the same heel construction, and the thing that are common to them is that they are from Venice, from the Venetian region. So I thought that it might be a traditional way to construct a heel that was used there back in the days and was brought through generations, and none of them know what the type of heel, what is the type of heel they are knitting, and none of them could actually tell me how to do that. So they just know how to do that, which is extremely frustrating. So I analyzed the heel, I wrote it down, and this is the result. So basically what you do here is you keep working your leg while you increase in two different points for the heel flap and gusset. So you build your gusset while you build your heel flap and while you build your leg as well. At some point when you're done with knitting the gusset and the heel flap, you do the heel turn. Everything is done knitting. My camera stopped in the very crucial moment. Anyway, I was saying that when you are done with knitting the gusset and the heel flap, and then while you actually keep knitting the leg here, this part of the leg, you start knitting the heel turn. And everything is knitted in the round without having to pick up stitch or anything like that. At some point here, you probably can see from this side, you start knitting the foot, keeping the top part with the ribbing and underneath with a stockinette stitch, regular stockinette stitch. And you go on. So it's a seamless construction for a heel flap and gusset that wears very, very well, I find. Venetian, I don't know if it's Venetian at all. Do you know if there is any professional construction or any pattern that use this type of thing? Let me know, because I'm very curious. I don't know if this is kind of unique to my region or unique to my family. I have no idea. I haven't seen this done before. And then the point here is just a regular 4 points decreases like you do. The thing is that I found that the way my mother especially knits her toes is different from this construction. It's probably more similar to a barn toe, decreasing all the way until you have like 4 stitches and then you knit up everything. I kind of don't like that roundy point. I prefer my point to be nice and squarish. But you can find this pattern on my Ravelry page, on Lovecraft. Yeah, hope you enjoy, and let me know if you have any recommendation for the heel flap and gusset here, the heel turn. If you know if this exists somewhere else's, I'll be really curious to understand where it comes from. Okay, that was a lot of talking for finished works, and we have works in progress. The first one, simple and easy, is here. This is, it's so difficult to handle these cones, but this is the first piece of the body, and I need not to lose stitches, of the flattened sweater jumper by Berger. Sorry if I butcher your name, but of course you can find all the information here. It's a gorgeous, and I'm saying gorgeous with capital letters, raglan design from the bottom and up. With a full-on color work. I don't know if you can see any of the color work. You have color work on the front and back mirroring each other, and then on the side you have this lovely kind of, it's another color work, but it's a nice little accent. If you are familiar with Norwegian salbu-meeting, they always have an accent on the sides, and that is repeated here in this jumper and as well in the raglan. This piece took me forever, 2 weeks. It's impossible to memorize. It's just very, very complicated color work. On the top of that, I am working with my usual 240 rules. I modify a little bit the pattern to get to that 240 magical number, and I'm using fingering weight yarn. As you can tell, these are 2 cones from Holstgarn. This is, oh god, I lost the label here, but this might be kind of summer storm color. It's a light blue and a dark blue, as simple as that. I absolutely love this wool. Once again, you can tell here probably that is a little bit holly and hairy, and when you wash it, it comes together so beautifully. The problem that I have is that it doesn't show the color work as well as after washing. You can't really tell the color work here. I lost the stitches, of course. And you see how I lost stitches, and in no time I picked them up, because the wool is so coarse that it doesn't unravel very easily. So if you unpick some of the stitches, you can just pick them up quite easily. So beautiful, beautiful color work. I can't wait to get it done. Once again, it's from Berger, and it comes from a book that I don't have here, but I will grab for you in a sec. This is the book. It's Nordic Knits. It's absolutely gorgeous. Let me see if I can find a picture of the jumper for you. Well, I cannot, because the pattern is actually written beside the picture, but I'm going to put a photo here. It's basically this jumper. I don't know if the glare allows us to see anything. This jumper here is absolutely gorgeous. I was tempted to do the cardigan version of the same, but I don't know if I use cardigans as much as jumpers, so that was it. And that was my first work in progress. Second work in progress, and the last, is bundled up like this. I kind of just started this. This is the very beginning, if I put it on the right side, of the Cortina sweater by Arne and Carlos. You can't really tell much here because it's just a short ribbing and a bit of stockinette. But this, here's the final result. I was telling you guys in my last episode that I was looking for this Cortina sweater by Arne and Carlos for a while. I couldn't find a pattern. Some of you have mentioned that I should reach out to Arne and Carlos, and so I did. Arne and Carlos were so kind to come back to me, so thank you, Arne and Carlos, if you are watching, or if anybody in your team is watching. And they were mentioning they don't own the copyright for this pattern, and I should reach out to Dale of Norway, which owns the copyright. Dale of Norway is a yarn company, but I see that they produce as well sweaters and other garments for sale, ready-made for sale, of course. So I contacted them, and they were so kind to send me the pattern, of course in Norwegian language. Anyway, what I've done is to take the pattern, translate it first using Google Translate, and that going back into other vintage patterns, other Arne and Carlos pattern, and kind of track down the proper construction, what the pattern was saying. From Norwegian to English, it was quite difficult to find the right translation, so that way, with a reconstruction of what the pattern says, I was able to get an English version of the pattern, which I'm extraordinarily thrilled about. Why all this effort for a jumper that people are saying looks exactly like the Marius sweater? Well, let me tell you why. Cortina is a town, name of a town, Cortina d'Ampezzo, which is probably, I don't know, 20 minutes from my hometown. It's a very famous ski resort town in the Dolomites, and from then you can actually go up to the Marmolada, haha, the link. Anyway, Cortina in 1956, if I'm right, hosted the Winter Olympics, and for that, Dale of Norway, or the company that was before Dale of Norway, wrote the pattern for the original Cortina sweater, which is a free pattern you can find in the Dale website. Gorgeous, gorgeous sweater, but you can tell it's vintage looking. Has a big boat neck opening. You need to wear kind of a scarf underneath to close the neck opening. Complicated. I loved the color work, I loved the construction, I didn't love the neck. So I found this pattern from Arne and Carlos looking into Ravelry. It's probably a modernization of the original Cortina sweater. They kept the color work untouched, but they modernized the other construction, so it is now a proper modern sweater, if you wish. And I found that was a great chance for me to knit something really close to my traditions and modern at the same time. So back in 1956, Cortina hosted the Winter Olympics, and now Cortina is hosting the Winter Olympics in 2026. So it's a great chance for me to knit up something that is quite iconic of that Olympic and very close to home. and I really wanted a jumper, very, very much. Although it looks very similar to the Marius sweater, this connection with my town, my region, and a sport that I absolutely love. If you have seen my advent calendar, Christmas calendar, you know that I'm mad for skiing, so yeah, here it is. Anyway, I'm knitting this using my stash of yarn. This is Drops Baby Merino Extra Fine. It's a merino fingering weight yarn. So, you know how I was saying that I used Drops Merino Extra Fine before, was looking magnificent after knitting it up, after washing, a complete disaster. The pattern grew, blah 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 blah. What have I done here to try and save this thing is to go down number of needle sizes. So I'm using here a 3mm needle for the body and a 2mm needle for the ribbing. So I really hope that going down in needle size so much to change the gauge massively, this will allow me to have a decently fitting jumper even after washing. This is the problem with merino superwash yarn that I can't figure out. So this is a sort of an experiment. If this works, probably merino extra fine finger weight will be one of my favorite yarns. I am known for being really sensitive on especially on the neck part with woolly jumpers. This, for example, woolly knits, super soft wool, is driving me crazy. I do need to wear a shirt underneath. I couldn't wear this all day. I'm not done for wool. So I find that using merino will probably be a little better to wear with just a t-shirt. And so far I do like the fabric very much. It's very tight, but once I wash this, I'm sure it's going to lose and it's going actually to be fitting and a good size. For now, you know, it's tiny. This wouldn't fit a leg, but once again, after washing, different story, grows massively. Cortina sweater is my second and last finish work. Now, I was so gingerly casting on everything this week that I had to stop and take a breath and think. And so I was watching Skein of Dreams, beautiful podcast that I absolutely recommend, and I was watching Kia Spot, another beautiful podcast that I absolutely recommend. And they both started playing with knitting bingo. So I was like, okay, if I'm so gingerly casting on everything, I do need to get some clarity, because I don't want to stress out this year having thousands of works in progress at once. Not my business. So I started my own personal knitting bingo that is here. This is just a spreadsheet tab that I kind of constructed to keep some sanity and clarity of mind. If you want the template, send me an email, reach out to me, I'll be really happy, but it's nothing crazy. So what I've done is putting on the top all the yarns that I have. So I have, I don't know, Drops Lima, for example. I have Holstgarn. I have 5 sweater quantity. Drops Lima, I have 2 sweater quantities. I have sock yarns. I have, like, I don't know, 5 sock worth of sock yarns in my stash. All my stash is there, or vast majority of that. On the vertical line, I put all the projects that I kind of feel I would like to make. So I have 6 jumpers and 6 accessories. As you see in the chart, I am already low in jumper patterns and sweater patterns. So 2 are works in progress, the one in yellow and the one that you just seen here. Other are projects that I cannot wait to cast on, that I was about to cast on last week, but I had to stop, otherwise I would have massive amount of whips and it's not good for my mental health. And then, of course, socks, accessory, hats, scarves, and whatever else happens. So there are 12 projects once a month. I think is pretty doable. Although last year I needed something like 18 jumpers and a number of socks, hats, craziness. But this is what it is. Hopefully we'll get through this knitting bingo quite easily. I will try to update you as we go on a bi-weekly basis on how we are doing. So as you see, I'm color coding everything. Yellow is a work in progress, green is a finished work, and red is a very close future cast on. Easy, simple as that. Good. So we have a tiny bit of acquisition situation going on, and then we'll announce the winner of the giveaway. I know this video is probably going on forever and you will be sick of hearing my voice, and my hot chocolate here is gone cold, but still tastes amazing. Anyway, acquisitions. One of you, so lovely viewer, sent me this, and I am mind blown. These are 2 booklets, 2 books actually, they're quite big, of patterns from Sunness Garn. As you know, I am absolutely in love with Sunness Garn patterns, and I find really difficult to find these booklets, and I really wanted to get some more. These 2 especially are my the things that I was looking for so quite desperately. So thank you so much. I am not putting your name here because I didn't ask you, and I'm recording in an impromptu type of way, but you know who you are. I'm so absolutely humbled and glad that you reach out to me, and yeah, thanks. Anyway, let's start with the first. This is Tema 72 by Sunness. It's quite a recent, I don't think they have a date here, but these are so-called Norwegian icons. It comes in English and German language, and is full of absolutely gorgeous jumpers, and I really want to cast on everything. But the first thing that I'm going to cast on is this one, this green sweater here. This is the, oh, you can see it from the cover as well. This is the Islander sweater, which is a pattern that other companies have, like Rauma, Skandernitz as well, Ali, another great podcast, and another great designer. It's classic, very simple color work, a raglan in this case. Looks amazing. I do have a version of this knitted in host garn. I really want another with the other colors. For these colors, I bought already wool. But let's talk about that now. I bought a jumper quantity of Rauma Finu, or so-called PT2, I think was the former address of the company, and this is sport weight wool, which is 175 meters by 50 grams, which is exactly the wool that is used for this jumper. Of course, this is Sunness. They use Sunness Sisu, if I'm right, which has the same weight and length of this, so perfect for the jumper. I got 8 balls of the black one, which is color 0436 and 0434, which is like a beige color. I thought I wanted, this is the jumper quantity by the way, 8 of the black and 3 of the beige. I thought I wanted in this color, but then I saw Inga from Knitting Traditions, she's making the same jumper out of a beautiful brown and a beautiful kind of mustardy color, and I do want that. So it's not something that I'm usually going for. I think brown doesn't suit me, doesn't suit my face, my colors, I don't know. It's not my color. But that jumper looks stunning. And I do want that combination of color. So I went back and I bought a jumper quantity, same 3 balls of mustard and 8 of brown, in to make this lovely Islander sweater. It's going to come in the post. Unfortunately, we don't have Rauma here in Ireland, so I had to buy it from France, I think, this time. So we have those 2 acquisitions, and the third one is this. This is another book from Sunness, which is kind of a surprise for me. Once again, full of beautiful jumpers, both for men, women and children. And this is, I don't know if I can translate this, I don't know if it's the tourist office or the trekking office of Norway. By the way, it's a collaboration between Sunness and the tourist board, something like that. And they are all old style Norwegian colorwork sweaters that I absolutely adore. And but look at this colorwork, it's just gorgeous. I need to figure out the way to make this without going out of mind, because they are so beautiful. Anyway, this was it acquisition-wise. As I mentioned in the post, I have more Rauma Fino to make an Islander sweater, and I have needles as well. And I really want to talk about knitting needles, because I never talked about needles before, and I think it's, I'm very picky with my needle. I think it's quite interesting as a topic. So maybe if in the post we have both the yarns and the needles for the next podcast, I will run you through my needles of choice. We are at the end of the podcast, and let's announce the winner of the giveaway. So, first of all, a giveaway for what? Over my advent calendar knitting vlogmas situation, I did run some sort of knit-along. So anybody that chooses to knit one of my knitting patterns, tagging me using the hashtag An Irish Knitting Podcast, will be able to enter for the giveaway. And I had quite a few entries actually. I'm really pleased, and all the works are so interesting because, let's face it, I'm not an extraordinarily successful knitting designer. I'm not really so known as a knitting designer, so seeing my patterns that I so seldom see knitted up by other people, knitted in so many different colors, really filled my heart with joy. It's so beautiful. So the way that I did the picking for the winner is putting all the people that used the hashtag An Irish Knitting Podcast, both here on YouTube or on Instagram, on a spreadsheet, and then I asked Siri to pick a random number between 1 and 302, which were the number of entries that I could find. And Siri picked number 60, which is Miss Sheila McLean out of Instagram, and I'm gonna put all the Instagram handle here. So please, Sheila, reach out to me over on my email address, which is below in the description or here somewhere, or on Instagram. As you are on Instagram, you're following me, so send me a message and we will arrange the shipping. Price-wise, I was promising to get 2 skeins of Irish yarn, and one is the Silver Moon. It's a hand-dyed 100% merino 4-ply, beautiful high twist yarn that I used before to design a pair of socks. This is hand-dyed here in Ireland. It's gorgeous, it's a beautiful color. This is not a recent acquisition, but I was gifted this yarn by the person that dyed the yarn, and it was part of a previous giveaway that wasn't claimed. So try this again. If you want this gorgeous orange pinkish color, reach out to me, Sheila. I'm sure you will, and I'm looking forward to get you this yarn. Unfortunately, in the label here we do not have measurement, but it's about 50 grams of wool, which is good. The second skein, I was promising another 100% Irish yarn, and we got the Studio Donegal Spinning Company, which is a beautiful yarn that is spun here in Ireland, in Kildare. No, in Donegal. It's called Studio Donegal. It's spun in Donegal, of course. So, Sheila McLean, please contact me and you will receive these 2 in the post. This is it for today. I really hope you had a nice time. You knitted up something nice for you. If you make the hot chocolate, let me know how you find the recipe. Very, 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 very curious, and please make it because it's gorgeous. Apart from that, have a lovely weekend and I will see you next time. Bye bye.